Greetings and welcome. I'm Christopher Avery, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Responsibility Company. And for the last almost 30 years, I've been a practitioner of responsibility according to the responsibility process, and it's transformed my life over and over and over. And I've been a promoter and a teacher and a mentor and a master teacher of this. And I know of hundreds of cases, and there's probably thousands of cases of people whose lives have been transformed over and over and over about this. And so we are doing these webinars as a gift, as a contribution to the world, based on the coronavirus that we're all very familiar with now, and all of the changes and uncertainty going on with that. For eons, gurus have said that responsibility is the ability to respond. I like the way Stephen Covey put it. He was paraphrasing some people he read, and it's unclear who he read. It's either Viktor Frankl or Rollo May, we think. But Stephen Covey said, in between stimulus and response is a space. And in that space is choice. And in that choice is freedom and power. And what we know is that we go through lives creating programs and put things on autopilot. So what we end up having is we have, between stimulus and response, we have no space. So it's actually not stimulus and response, it's stimulus and react. So we say, oh, that's horrible, or that's bad, or ugh, or whatever. And then that puts in place a negative program. We call these triggers, buttons, whatever. And you and I are really, really good at creating these. And what a responsibility practice does is it starts to pry that space open so that we can operate more and more at choice. The responsibility process kicks in, gets triggered every time something goes wrong. And so never in the history of my work or our company has there been more awareness of things going wrong in the world than right now. So as we say, there's two pandemics, right? One is a microorganism, the other is anxiety and fear and uncertainty. And every time something goes wrong, we have a little bit of anxiety. And every time that happens, our minds go here. And between blame and obligation, we essentially feel powerless. We feel like we're a victim. We're sure there's nothing we can do. We're sure that something else has to change. And there's a mental state of responsibility, which is actually us noticing that there's a space between stimulus and response, and that we can choose. And in this mental state of responsibility, we have much better access to our genius, to our creativity. So today is an opportunity for you to come on screen and say hello. And let's just talk about what's going on. And if there's something I can help you move through, I'll do that. And if not, maybe our talking will help somebody else move through something. So we're on Facebook Live as well. If you're watching on Facebook Live and you want to come over to Zoom and talk to me, the ID is 116-128-539. I'll repeat that, and I'm guessing Joe is putting that in the comments, 116-128-539. So Susan, let me know anytime you've got somebody ready to come say hello. I'll keep talking until then. So what I want you to do right now is to just check in, right? So that's a great practice. It's an awareness practice. So awareness is one of the three keys to responsibility. And so just check in with yourself. And a cool check-in is just to say, when in time am I right now? Am I in the past feeling bad or guilty or wishing I could change something about the past? Am I in the future? Am I worrying, hoping, trying to control the future, trying to make sure some event is going to happen? If we're in those two places, then we're not present, we're not in the now. So a check-in is just to say, be here now, I'm in, right? Here's where I am. You can even declare it, I intend to be present. So that's first. Second, you might think about an intention for this period of your day, right? You are investing your time and attention in being here with me right now. What do you want to get out of this that you're in charge of, right? Do you have an intention to solve a problem? Do you have an intention to overcome some fear or upset or anxiety? Do you have an intention to be inspired? Do you have an intention to figure out one positive response to something? You can set any intention you want. I love it when I go to yoga, and most yoga teachers at the beginning of a yoga practice say, if you have an intention for today, this is a good time to set it. And then they just move on. They don't make a big deal about it. And my intention usually is to feel relaxed. So I'd also invite you to, whether you're on Facebook or on Zoom, just put in the chat or comments where you are today and anything that's on your mind. So I'm in Austin, Texas, USA. Thank goodness, at home.
We've got Nasima from Toronto. Patricia's in Waco, Texas, US. Elisa is in Finland, I believe.
Yeah.
And Faye, you are in Columbus, Ohio. Kelsey is in Montana.
Montana?
Isn't she?
No, I think she's in Wyoming.
Oh, okay, close. I was close.
But if she said she's in Montana, then she's in Montana.
No, she says she's in Wyoming.
Okay. So who's got something that you'd like to talk about today? Who's got some uncertainty, some change going on? Responsibility is the very essence of change, the ability to respond.
Christopher doesn't bite. I've got one if nobody else does.
Get us started, Susan.
All right. So there is an impulse that I'm feeling to shrink down and cut off a bunch of my usual expenses, but I'm struggling with, my intention is that the economy keeps going to the extent that it can. So things like, I have a house cleaner that comes, I have a yard person that comes. These are somewhat elective expenses of mine for my household. So I struggle between, am I not being responsible? Should I shrink everything down, or should I try to remain open and not sort of buy into the panic?
Yeah, good question. I think lots of people have the same considerations, as do I. So first of all, let me focus on your question. I wonder if I'm not being responsible. So are you asking that question from a point of view of, I wonder if I'm not being ethical or moral, or are you asking that from a point of view of, I wonder if I could have more awareness about what does freedom, choice, and power mean in this situation?
Where I'm at with it is, I don't want to respond from fear. And I'm not sure, I'm not, how do I know whether I'm responding from fear? If I'm aware enough to ask the question, is that a signal that I'm not responding from fear? Or at least that I have the potential?
Right. So I teach that there's a really good question to ask here. Right? What's the question that we want to ask? Not what should I do? What's the right thing? What's the responsible thing? That's not the question. Do you recall what question I teach that we ask ourselves in times like these?
What do I want to have happen?
Just what do I want? Yeah, what do I want? So what do you want, Susan?
I want to stay solvent. I want my family to stay safe and solvent. Mm-hmm. And I want to contribute to the economy to the extent that I can support.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Congratulations. Yeah.
So it's
So
it just because I'm aware doesn't make it an easy answer, right?
it'll be easy when you have complete clarity. So um, so here's what I follow. Uh, so what I follow is the idea that in times of um, in times of change, when any aspect of my being is in danger, and by danger, what I mean is that it can't continue to be sustained in these conditions, uh, then I do look at conserving. Right? So I think that your desire to do that is natural. Like you, I don't want to operate from scarcity. So, for instance, I have not yet, as a business owner, cut any expenses. I have not yet let go of any people. In fact, I've increased our expenses, and I'll say something about that in a moment. Um, but what I have done is I've stopped and re-examined everything in process for new budget or new expenses. Right, so I've taken a hard look at anything new. For my household, I've also done that, and I absolutely stopped some things that were in process. I was getting ready to hire a handy person for 20 hours a month. I just bought a home and moved in, and I don't want to do all the, you know, hang new uh, window treatments and towel bars, and I don't want to do that stuff for myself. But as you and I joked about before we went on, it's DIY time, right? And so I'm not hiring that handy person for the time being. So I am reducing my household expenses, and I will take a hard look at all of those other things. I think the morality issue for you also comes in, and so this is a morality issue in terms of supporting others. It's also a spiritual issue in terms of what do we believe about the universe and about giving and receiving and abundance and scarcity. And that's different for each of us. But, in my case, I'm not going to take action to stop paying anybody without having a conversation with them about it and without including their needs. For instance, who knows, maybe your housekeeping service doesn't want to keep coming to your house,
Yeah,
or your lawnmower.
that's right.
Yeah, so what I do is I open a conversation with them and I say, look, I could be tempted to just slash and cut you off and be on my own, and you're on your own, but I don't really want to do that. So I thought I'd have a conversation with you about, I'd just love to hear where you are about that. And, I still may make the choice, but I won't do it right away. Maybe a week or two or three. And you never know what two people, an employer and an employee, come up with as solutions in times like that. So that's my approach. And then, like you, I believe that we're going to figure this out. I believe that there's a tremendous amount of pent up money in the system that wants to flow, and I believe it will come back and start flowing. So I am not taking the me against the world stance and slashing everything and going into fear and scarcity, because I believe that will return to me. That's my belief about how the universe operates. Is I believe that my whatever I do there will return to me. So Susan, I honor you're trying to strike a kind of a balance between being a smart human being in a household with expenses and now probably revenue challenges that weren't there 3 weeks ago. So what do you think about that?
I love it.
Okay.
I'm reminded to look at the chart And if I'm in shame that I don't have enough savings to keep all of my stuff going and save, you know, help the small businesses that I'm already in relationship with, then I come up above the line and realize that I'm making an appropriate decision based on conditions and my family's needs. And it's not wrong to put my family ahead of, you know, other small businesses, but to the extent that I can support. So I feel more sure of my ground. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So for me, the main takeaway here is not necessarily how you make this decision, but just remember the question isn't what should I do? The question is, oh, look at this situation. What do I want about this? What will
Right.
make me feel free, powerful, and at choice? And that's where you started making progress and breakthrough here and thinking about that. So just for everybody listening, I mentioned that I'm actually increasing expenditures in one place in my business. So what I believe is that in times of change and danger and uncertainty, I believe in conserving everywhere possible, but actually expanding my investment in promotion or marketing. So we've just added a new person to our team that we were planning on. We've been looking for this person for a number of months anyway, and we found her, and she's joined the team, and she's on this call. Kelsey, getting a fire hose of orientation because she just started yesterday. And again, I looked hard at that, but for me, it's a fundamental principle of the universe: is I need to be promoting. I need to be letting the world know what service we can offer. Otherwise, we don't enter into a business relationship with anybody. So that's that. Nasima, how do I
Hi.
say your name?
You are pronouncing it correctly,
Hi
Nasim.
there.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm free, powerful, and at choice. Thank you.
Yes. It's a very stressful situation. There is so many good things happening. Like we as a Agile community are like-minded people are together, even getting new friends from around the world, sharing the same stress, same pain, um, showing our empathy for each other. But no matter how, I'm more actively doing meditation, different kind of. Still,
Did you say meditation? You're doing
yeah,
meditation? Okay.
yeah, I'm doing with Deepak Chopra and Sid Guru, and in spite of all these things, I'm managing my stress and all. Financial stress is not something that we can avoid, or we just let it be. The way we are protecting us from corona not to affect us, the same way I feel that we have to be careful about the financial stability.
What's your concern there?
People are losing
what's
job.
going on in your
Yeah,
mind?
people are losing job, and I completely working on my website and all my training business, everything, and I put online 100%. So I don't know how the transition gonna take place and how successful I could be.
So people are losing jobs, and what else did you say? Something about your website?
Yeah, I'm putting everything on website, like all training and everything that I can offer will be online. So
Okay.
and
So
there is a challenges too, right?
so you're a teacher, coach?
Yes, I'm an agile coach and trainer, teacher.
Right. So you're transitioning from working in person to
Online,
online.
100%.
Yeah, I only know about a million or 10 million of us who are making that transition right now very rapidly. That's another place I've increased my investment in learning how to deliver online, even though I've been delivering online for 10 years. I'm now going to trainings that are being offered by others who are experts in doing online stuff. So I'm spending money there to, I call it increasing my ability to serve, increasing service facilities. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so financial stress. And financial stress looks like people are being laid off and you are transitioning to online and figuring out, I guess, like me,
Yeah.
promote that, how to sell that.
Yes.
Okay.
And if we think on the other way around, that who is our buyer? Who will be our who will buy business from us? They're losing their job. Why they'll invest money on anything more? Because most of a good percentage of people pay their fees through the company.
Mhm.
How many would love to pay out of pocket? So it's gonna be a very, very challenging step.
Right. So do you have personal anxiety about this?
I'm taking it as a challenge. Challenge, like, it's not about just delivering, it's about how like how the maximum I can share and I can deliver out of the minimum investment. For example, they are giving me purchasing my training like a certain amount of money. Are they end of the session they will feel that is worth that? Okay, I purchased this training from Nisima, is it worth, is valuable? So I took it as a challenge. I transforming all the time as I gel people as a personality, but last 1 month and last 2 weeks my transformation is like rapidly increasing. I'm finding my gap, I'm working on it. So I don't know, sometimes it's stressful. Like I'm if I'm burning out, then I don't know.
Well, so let me say this to you. Until we actually develop a solid responsibility practice and know how to practice intention, then most of us are driven by anxiety most of the time. Right? So even Susan was a really good example of that. And Susan has been a stellar student of responsibility for about 1.5 years now. And still, we catch ourselves operating from below the line in anxiety, which means we're focused on trying to stop bad things from happening. Right? And our mind is on what's bad or what's wrong or what could be bad or what could be wrong. And we're totally focused on that. And your talk about all the stress, financial stress, this stress, that stress, you're naming it all as, you're naming the stresses, right? And I actually live a very low stress existence, even though I have the same problems, right? I have the same problems, but I know that the stress is created in here. All the anxiety is self-created, and it's created because we have two competing thoughts. We have conflict in our mind between what we want and what we have. Right? And every time that happens, the responsibility process gets triggered. Every time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And below the line, when we're having thoughts of, oh, I have to do this, 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 or darn, I wish I did, I didn't, Jews, I'm so stupid, I didn't take care of that, I don't have more savings, I didn't learn about being online faster, right? Or there's nothing I can do, the world is collapsing, the sky is falling, right? The government this and the borders that, and social isolation, blah, 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 or that stupid president, or whatever, my stupid employer or customers, right? So we have all of these thoughts, and what that means is stimulus, reaction, autopilot, program, reaction. So that's why the question really is, what do I want about this situation? Right? First of all, I don't call it stressful, because I don't invite stress.
Mm-hmm.
I do recognize that if I allow it to, it's going to create anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize there's lots of anxiety around the world because most people are driven by anxiety and think that they have to be in order to survive. So my invitation to you is to look up you can download this chart, the responsibility process.
Yeah.
You can download it from responsibility.com.
Yes.
And it's the PDF that you can download.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the definition of responsibility: owning your ability and power to create, choose, and attract. Owning your ability and power to create, choose, and attract. Some people think that there needs to be something at the end of that. So if I were to add something at the end of that, I would say everything, or your reality, or your experience. So owning your ability and power to create, choose, and attract your experience. So what that means is that we absolutely believe, we know that we are always creating, choosing, and attracting our experience. Because my experience of the world, my experience of you right now is based on my filters, my attitudes, my beliefs. And stimulus comes in, seeing you and hearing you comes in, but it goes through those filters and beliefs, which means I'm creating my experience of you. We're just not always owning that we're creating our own experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So my invitation to you is to own the fact that you're creating your own stress and that you're creating your own fear. And just ask yourself, do I want to focus on the stress and the fear, or do I want to focus on creating the next hour of my life? Do I want to focus on creating the next day of my business? Do I want to focus on creating the future of this planet? Do I want to focus on being here right now? You know, I saw something really interesting posted by a friend of mine. I have a friend who runs a charity in the Philippines, and he's adopted an entire district, and he lives in a grass hut. He's a very successful businessman from Australia, but he's retired. He's in his 70s, and he's adopted a district, and he's teaching them consciousness in terms of love versus fear, and he's teaching them economics to bring themselves out of poverty. And they're doing agriculture, and they learned that they could plant cacao trees underneath palm trees, and they now have a chocolate business that supports many of the people in the district. So he sent me a note recently, and he said, our parents and grandparents spent 6 years living with World War. He says, all we have is a little social isolation and an economy in crisis. He says, I got this handled. This is a breeze.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Christopher.
Yeah. I would also say to you and to others listening, Nassima, that there's never been more money in the world. And I define money as ideas based in confidence, backed by work actually done. Right? So the level of exchange, the level of transaction in this world has never been less than it is today, right? In terms of the total number of ideas. I'm tempted to say wealth. The total number of dollars ready to flow has never been less. It's just constricted right now, right? That's all. It's just constricted. It hasn't gone away. And it's going to want to flow again. So I think my job and your job is to figure out how to survive and thrive while figuring out what the new flow is going to look like for us. I think that's my job.
Absolutely. Thank you for helping me to see the things in a better point of view.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Really.
Okay. So I'd love to hear from you in chat or comments, whatever you're taking away, anything that Nassima and I talked about that was valuable for you or helps you, especially if you have ahas or insights or new breakthroughs to freedom. Faye, you're muted, but unmute yourself and come say hello. If you can't, we can. There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. I dropped for a split second. I don't know what.
Hi, friend.
How are you?
I'm free, powerful, and at choice. How are you?
Wonderful. I the same. I would say I'm actually feeling pretty good about this acute situation. I've got some. I mean, I have concerns the way that other people do, and monitoring them and adjusting my behaviors accordingly, so I can manage my stress. So I came by today, and I was at the first one last week as well, because I always like hearing the language that you share with us, so we can share it with others. Because I was curious what some of the concerns you were hearing from others that led you to do this in the first place, the freak out that you were hearing, and then and that really why I stopped by, because I wanted to hear some more of that language. I was looking back at my notes from last Wednesday, even just some of the things you talked about with people about that strong stance of I am more than any one problem I can handle, and that not being a stance like a stance of bravado. It's just confidence that I can get through this. Yes, exactly.
I am bigger than this problem. I am bigger than any problem. No problem is going to take me down.
Right.
Until one does. Right? And until that, I'm bigger than any problem and every problem.
Right. And I have yet to encounter a problem that I can't talk myself through. And what you just said, in fact, I've already taken a couple pages of notes this morning of what you just said, that you have all the same stressors that the rest of us have, but you have a mechanism that you work through it with.
Yeah, I don't have any less problems than anybody else.
Right.
I just get from here to here like that. And that's only because I have a practice, right? So as you know, Faye, responsibility is a practice. And one of the things that I've learned is that it's really easy to be inspired and titillated by the responsibility process, but unless you start a practice and develop that practice, the only thing that the knowledge of this does for you is it allows you to label other people as not taking responsibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And to those of you listening who aren't in on this or watching, it's like a million times easier to see this behavior in other people than it is to see it in ourselves. So it's really easy to walk around going, yep, they're in blame, and yep, they're justifying, and oh, look, they're coming from obligation. And well, in order to do that, we actually have to be coming from, the very bottom of the chart. Mm-hmm. And so it only works if self-applied. The responsibility process only works if self-applied. And that's my whole job, is to help Susan apply it, help Nassima apply it, help you, Faye, apply it. And again, that's, so the keys are intention, awareness, and confront. These are the keys to accessing the responsibility process and unlocking it. So if you haven't downloaded the poster, I'm not speaking to you specifically, Faye, but if you haven't downloaded the poster, you can. And these three keys, intention, awareness, and confront, are on the back of the poster. All the teaching points, the main teaching points, are on the poster. So awareness means catching myself in fear, catching myself in anxiety, catching myself feeling like a victim, catching myself feeling like the problem is bigger than me, right? So that's why today I'm using the idea of I'm bigger than this problem, is because when we're below the line, we're feeling like the problem is bigger than us. We can't do anything about it, right? Something out there has to change for us to be happy. And in this mental state, I know that I'm bigger than the problem, even if I haven't figured out the solution yet, right? But I'm working on it. Yeah. So awareness, awareness means being aware of my feeling states. So if you want to get started with this practice, those of you listening, set a timer on your fancy watch or on your phone or iPad or computer. Set a reminder to just check in every 6 hours, every 1 hour, every 10 minutes and say, where am I? Right? Am I above or below the line? And so that's awareness. And then intention means have an intention to be bigger than any problem, have an intention to take ownership of our lives, have an intention to get to the mental state of responsibility. So that's what your comments make me think about, Faye.
Yeah, and I liked your other kind of phrasing that question a little while ago, that even if I could envision a situation in which I truly have no influence over any factor, I know I can always choose my reaction to what's happening. And that idea of, would I rather spend the next hour fretting and in anxiety, or would I rather spend the next hour or the next day or whatever at peace, or creating something, or at rest, or whatever it is, something that's productive. And so that, I like that. I think I'm gonna think on that every once, use that question as like a trigger to get me out of my own head.
Absolutely. What you make me think of there is there's a number of us who practice responsibility who actually don't spend much time interacting with, quote, the news. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that one of my teachers that I never met personally, but I've studied with people who studied with him, and that was Buckminster Fuller. Buckminster Fuller taught me that the news is not in the newspapers or on TV, that's the drama business, right?
Right, so, now more than ever, exactly.
So that's a media channel that's designed to provide a certain bias. I've actually had people in workshops. I've given out a stack of newspapers from the last week and a big sheet of paper and ask you to create a collage of the responsibility process based on headlines. And the majority of the headlines in the newspapers fit in blame and justify, or occasionally the hero headline, the feel-good headline that fits in responsibility.
Yeah.
If you must watch the news, I say watch absolutely polar examples. Watch MSNBC for 10 minutes, and then watch Fox News for 10 minutes, and then MSNBC for 10 minutes, and then Fox News for 10 minutes, and then the BBC for 10 minutes. All right. And so to the other point, there's a lot of things on the news that I could get upset about or mad about. And in fact, that's much of the purpose of the news, is to incite emotion in us. So there's a lot of stuff on there that I could spend a lot of time complaining about and griping about and getting mad about that I actually have no intention of ever doing anything about. And when Buckminster Fuller taught me I am the news, what that means is he said, we are local problem solvers. What's unique about human beings is we look around us and we see things that we know could work better, could be better. And we dedicate ourselves to those things. And we take ownership of some space, some problem, some opportunity. Nobody authorizes us to do so. We just sign up for it. We say, that's mine. I'm going to go dedicate my week, month, year, life to that problem. And somehow it's probably going to sustain me, if not emotionally, if not financially, then emotionally. So for me, what you and I are doing right now is much more important than what's happening in the world in terms of what the news is reporting, right? So I took this idea many years ago and I said, you know what? I really don't like that people around the world don't know how responsibility works in our minds. I really don't like that. That's a problem for me. That gives me anxiety that people don't understand responsibility. I think I better go do something about that. And so, you know, what can one little person like me do about one thing in the world? It turns out I've actually done a lot in the
Right.
15 years since I decided that. You know, nobody approved of it. Nobody gave me the right. And in terms of making a living, I even had a lot of anxiety about that because, gosh, you know, trying to create a whole new market around a whole new idea and a channel and figure out how to earn money and make a living. Oh, that's really hard. Right? Why can't I just buy a McDonald's franchise or become a real estate agent? You know, well, because those things didn't tap into my genius and my inspiration. So
Interesting. As you were describing that too, I was thinking about, you know, there are all kinds of stories of people who start a business or they start a nonprofit to help solve a problem that they care about, and others look at that problem and think, what drove you to do that? Because your efforts are just a drop in the bucket, right? There are a lot of people, but that's because those people don't feel that passion to solve that problem. And the people who do feel so called to solve that particular problem know that all those drops in the bucket add up to the complete bucket. And it takes everybody doing a little bit around their passion to make a change.
that's right. Your genius is different than mine, and your inspiration is different than mine. So lately, I've been talking a lot about the fact that every human being has a very unique genius in terms of their abilities, and they also have very unique inspiration in terms of what turns them on, right? What motivates them, what inspires them, what makes them breathe, inspire, right? What makes them breathe. And so your genius and inspiration are different than mine. And that's a good thing because there's a lot of problems in this world that I'm not interested in taking on.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a hold of one that I think's a big one, and I'm just holding on all I can, doing what I can. Right. So yeah, there's lots of others out there that need you.
Very cool. Well, thank you. Thanks again for giving your time and sharing this with us.
Thank you so much, Faye, for coming on and talking about this with me. Good to see you.
See you too.
Susan, it's like 2 minutes before the end of our scheduled time. What's your recommendation?
I think we should talk about what we've got going on, when our next session is, invite folks and make sure they know that they are welcome to all of these sessions. They are certainly helping keep me calm and focused, so I very much appreciate them.
Right, we're doing this for very selfish reasons, in case you don't understand. Right, selfless but selfish. All right, so I'll start, or I'll continue from where you started there. First of all, everyone, please, I want you to claim some wins from the last 24 hours. So a win is an intention met. This is one of our most fundamental practices. I know most people want to be a winning person, be on a winning team, but we actually don't practice winning. We practice losing, we practice complaining, we practice focusing on being a victim, we practice focusing on what's wrong. So let's practice focusing on what's an intention that I had in my life in the last hour, day, week that came true, right? So I intended to have this webinar this morning, and I intended it to be of service and to be of value to a number of people. Looks like that's true, so that's a win. I intended to wake up and do my exercises this morning, and I did, so that's a win. I intended to go to bed at a reasonable time last night, and I did. That's a win. So I want you to claim some wins. Please put any feedback for us. What was the value of today for you? Put that in your comment or chat. And then any thoughts you have about how to improve this in terms of how to improve the value, the reach, whatever. Coming up, We're going to be doing another one of these on Friday, so please invite your team, your family, your friends. If you'd like, come on together. And we're just getting ready to announce some online workshops of our own. So we're moving our leading and coaching, the responsibility process leading and coaching workshop. We're moving it up from being live in Austin in May to being delivered virtually at the end of April. So stay tuned to responsibility.com for that. Go to responsibility.com/resources to download a responsibility process poster. And Susan, what else? While waiting for Susan, follow and like us. We're at Response Pro, RESPONSPRO on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And of course, follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter.
Yep, we're pretty easy to find. We are paying it forward and making a lot of value visible to the world.
Yes, and you can find these recordings on YouTube, personal Christopher Avery YouTube channel, and there's a playlist called Responsibility Answers. So there's two playlists that we've been adding to a lot lately, one called Responsibility Answers and the other called Space, as in space between stimulus and response. All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again on Friday.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Nasima is